make welcome Betsy Oji Ofeigo. Over to you, Betsy.
Thank you everyone for having me today. That was a very, very lovely citation there. Thank you so much. Sometimes I don't even know it's me that is being spoken about, but I'm grateful to be here today, having to, look at this beautiful topic, industrial revolution and the future of work. Yeah, so I think just to start, it would be nice to establish, basically what the topic is about at a high level, at least before we can delve into looking at the Canadian experience part of it. Industrial revolution as a term in itself, basically is just, some kind of overthrow, some kind of forceful change that basically brings about a new system. So in the past, in the long past, in the 1700s, we did have a revolution. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. That's another thing I need to confirm before I continue. I'm sharing my screen right now. I don't know if a PowerPoint is being played at the venue.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I get a confirmation?
Yes.
Okay. O- Okay. Okay. So yeah. So industrial revolution, basically it dates back, to the 1700s, like I said earlier, when we had some kind of change in the way the world started to operate at the time. So think about a time where everything was largely manual, a time where production, facilities were run based on manpower, really, having people basically use their hands to till, to toil the soil, to do everything that needed to be done, for our consumption of food at the very minimum. Also, I think it's important to establish that at that time, 1784, when the first industrial revolution occurred, it brought about mechanization. Really, it was about a time where I guess you can say people desired to change the way the world worked. Technology became, really important at the time because, again, we realized that we could not rely on our own human effort anymore. Innovation, really, people determining that there was a need, to use technology to make life easier. And then, it progressed. That's like the first part of the industrial revolution. And then the second time was when, things began to progress. We started to do some kind of assembly lines for those in, fast moving consumer goods, milk to be produced. You can see all the systems, working together, harmonized to get things produced, in a more efficient manner. And then again, as time went on, 1960s, we started to see, the production of computers, people making more innovations that could basically help us in our electronic life, basically. So right now we can speak across the globe. Right now I'm sitting here in Canada, I'm speaking to you there in Nigeria, the technical glitches notwithstanding, at least you can hear me, and that means that we began to benefit from these changes that have occurred over time. And then we get to today, today, which is the Industry 4.0, which is the fourth revolution, kind of, where we are seeing things even moving beyond, actual electronics and gadgets and computers to everything going to the cloud, everything being hosted on networks. So yeah, so this is just kind of a pictorial representation of the changes that have occurred over time. And I think before we move on, it's also important to appreciate the, like I said, the history of where we are coming from. If you look at most of our research around industrial revolution, you would see that most of them give credit to the Great Britain. Basically, they were the ones who at the time determined that, okay, they wanted, to have a lot of innovations around their technological aspects, around their architecture. The British architecture is really beautiful. If you've, kind of seen their pictures or even visited, you can tell that, okay, these things are really old structures, but they haven't given way, right? Over time, they are Gothic, they are beautiful, they show the strength and they show the will of the people at the time, to make their country a beautiful country. Also, you can see that over time, new manufacturing processes were developed, and these began to spread to Europe, to the US. Of course, world powers more or less like to, I wouldn't say copy from one another, but of course they benchmark with each other. So at the time, some of these other countries in the North America and the Caribbeans, even up to India, people started to make changes to catch up. So that's what industrial revolution does. It actually did make other countries see that countries are more efficient. So why can't I just, take advantage of this and leverage and join this rave? Like I said, it's a forceful change. It's something that it happens, and then you realize you cannot be caught, you cannot be left behind. You want to catch up, with that. So really, we can say that we can attribute the development of trade and, of course, businesses that were rising at the time were also major causes of industrial revolution. People looking around to say, okay, what can I do to make my processes better? What can I do to save costs, also reduce the extent of labor that I need to put into this production process, that would help me, of course, increase my output, increase my sales, increase my turnover, just basically make me a more profitable company or country at the time. So I decided to just, bring us some of the key features of industrial revolution, as it were, at that time, and even up to now. One of it will be, basically, of course, if you talk about revolution, you're talking about the transitioning of manufacturing processes at the time, in Europe, in North America, like I said, and to the rest of the world. Everybody has caught up. Even Nigeria as a country has also caught up with their own fair share of trying to make sure that, of course, things are less manual. We can, even nothing else, think of agriculture, right? You can see the use of agricultural manufacturing tools. You can see the use of tractors. You can see the use of harvesters. All of those things would have been done by hand. This is something that just shows that the world obviously revolves time after time. And then we talk about the four revolution periods. Like I said, they were different time. They were like time blocks. You can talk about like the 1700s, sometime in the 1800s, as well as the 1969. And then, of course, what we enjoy today, which is basically we are still in the revolution. We're just in the fourth phase of the revolution. Also, you would talk about hand production methods that were kind of changed to mechanized production, use of steam power, water power. Of course, we started to look around us to see the resources that were available to us at the time in the world. Of course, I wasn't born then, but I can only imagine, people looking around them to say, this water that God has blessed us with, this, this steam, what can we do? What can we do to convert this energy to help us, have better life, to help us live more efficiently. Also, there was innovation in terms of development of machine tools. And I guess whenever the world is having generally a better time, you can likely link it to some macroeconomic changes, like changes in population growth. That's something else that was another effect that of industrial revolution at the time. Of course, what made it happen? What made it possible for the world to revolve? What made it possible for the industries to develop at the time? We can narrow it down to 6 factors, really. So I think the first I would try to explain basically around the fact that there were high levels of agricultural production. You have a lot of people and they need to eat. At the very minimum, food is a basic need of man. So at the time, I think it was important to hasten up the process. That meant, from the planting season to the harvesting season down to when it gets to the consumers, there was need to make this as shortest time as possible. So there was need for agricultural productivity at the time, and of course, make sure that you provide food for humans, right, to eat. Also, I think there were skills. So for you to revolve, for you to make a change, you kind of have to be equipped with the skills that are relevant at the time. Of course, there must have been people who studied engineering at the time. I can also foresee that there were people who probably did architecture and some of all these really technical courses, and we're having the high interest to see, okay, what have we studied and how can we translate it into our everyday lives. So the pool of entrepreneurial skills that were available at the time, as well for people who were business owners who wanted to see how they could improve their businesses or how they could convert their capital to generate more money, generate more money for themselves, as well as, of course, channels of resources such as the ports, the rivers, the canal. For you to use your water power, you had to have, those resources available, as well as natural resources. If nothing else, Nigeria as a country, we're one blessed country that have, coal, iron, waterfalls. All of these are available, right? So all around the world, everybody began to look around what they had within them. Even here in Canada is a country that is really surrounded by largely water. So I could also see that, from my research, that people began to look around them to see, okay, what are the resources available to us? How can we channel these things to help us make the best of our living at the time? Another point to appreciate, I think, would be political stability. So for you to bring about change at the time, industrial revolution, for you to make a revolution, it was also important that you kind of had a system that would allow the change flourish. it's more difficult to make change in, war-prone areas, or areas that are struggling with lack of, a stable government, or some kind of, just basically war, instability, right? You don't want to deal with those kind of situations, because whatever change you make, there's a large possibility that the more you try to improve on it, the more your efforts are being taken two steps backward, just by one, just one riot, or one, war, or something that could just lead to making your efforts go into futility, right? So yeah, so they also had some kind of legal system at the time, that supported businesses. So these were really key factors that made it possible for a revolution to have occurred at the time. And most importantly, I guess I would say, would be the financial capital, really, because it's only wishful thinking if you think you can make as much change if you do not have the wherewithal, the money, the resources, the financial capital, really, that makes it work. So I think just before we move ahead, we must appreciate the 6 factors that necessitated this, that made it possible at the time, and even continue to make it possible for us right now in the world to enjoy from changes that technology has brought. The theme for this conference is basically maximizing opportunities, globally, right? So for you to do this, you kind of need to appreciate the fact that, okay, for this to have been made possible over time, these were the resources that were available for man to make use of, its own skills and his own skills, and just, and make the world a better place, really, by ensuring that life was made easier with the tools and the innovations that we have come to enjoy. Now, what are bringing us now to the impact. So what would be the impact now over time that industrial revolution has done for us? If nothing else, I particularly am enjoying innovation relating to computers, because for me to have been able to speak at this conference, at the minimum, I would have had to, travel down to Abuja, probably be lodged somewhere close to the venue of the conference, and had to commute there in the morning. Yeah, so if you look at all of that compared to just, sitting here and, having a few minutes of, okay, can you hear me or can you not hear me? I think that's kind of, it's as an easy choice, right? I would still rather just have to deal with the minimum, kind of risk that technology brings than the beautiful benefits that we have all come to enjoy. So looking at it now, we can say it has affected all our lives in some kind of way, really. If you look around you, you would see, if nothing else, the mobile phone you have in your hand that can help you communicate across different countries, across even within the same country, speak to your family members, speak to your friends, your colleagues at work, your subordinates, whatever it is, just at a snap of a finger, really. That's how easy life has been made to be over time, because of the kind of revolutions that have occurred, starting from revolution 1 to 2 to 3 and to the 4 that we enjoy today. Also, I think it's also important to mention that the average income at the time and population as well began to exhibit some kind of, sustained growth. People began to realize that, okay, it means that, by making work easier, I can earn more money. Of course, have a bigger family, or even if aside even having a bigger family, you could also see that you could earn more income. So that alone is something that is like a benefit or like an impact of industrial revolution. Also, I think some other people have come to say that the standard of living generally, and even the fact that, how do I say now, and living over time have reflected the most beneficial impacts of industrial revolution. So I think now we can also now appreciate better what I was trying to show earlier when we first started, which were the stages of the revolution. So we have moved now from steam. We've moved from the benefits of having electricity, which is super key to any kind of revolution, and which is super key to any kind of benefit you want to enjoy in the world. If you do not have power, that's electricity, you're likely going to suffer, because everything you kind of need operates with power most times. Now we have moved from that. You can enjoy social media. You can see some, some what's it called now, logos of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of that. I mean, there's really nothing you need right now that is not on at least YouTube. I know for that, because I personally also, use YouTube sometimes to share some content, teach people how to do something, probably how to pass ACCA or how to do something. This is something that would have been much more difficult for me to do if I didn't have access to this kind of facilities. This is also something that will make life so much easier, because you do not have to, have I don't know as an answer when the internet is available to you. The learning is like all encompassing. You have access to it. You can store it. You can download stuff. You can keep them in your folders. This just shows generally how we have come to enjoy the efforts that were made really by innovators over time. Now we're looking at today. So you kind of hear some words like artificial intelligence, biotech, robotics, quantum computing, data science, cloud computing. All of this is now what the world is moving to. So this is now we're looking, okay, so now we have moved from even having stuff stored in hardware. We're trying to think of how to store them on the cloud and buy cloud space and, do all of this, innovative stuff that have come to stay, really, because at this point, I don't think anybody would argue that these things have come to stay. If at the point where social media came up in the 1990s, if we had a doubt that they were here to stay, I think the fact that we have had to use them up till now and continue to use them, Facebook has been there for, I don't know, about 20 years now or so, and we have continued to use it. It's not going anywhere, right? So that alone will tell us that all of these changes that we are hearing about, and they seem quite strange to us. And what do they mean when they say AI? What do they mean when they say artificial intelligence, when they say robotics? Well, the truth is, these things have come to stay. This is the future now. This is where we are moving to. This is our current life, and this is what will continue to happen in the future. So then, how can we, kind of appreciate this future? And okay, what can we see, and how can we tap into it? How can we maximize our opportunities that this future provides? So now it brings us to the future of work. What is it going to be like? What is it going to look like in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, in the next 30 years? How is this this revolution 4.0 now that we are enjoying, how is it going to transit into the future, bringing us to the future of work? And of course, I'll be giving some examples from how things that currently are in Canada. I decided to use this picture just to depict what work looks like right now. Work for us, especially here in Canada, has become wherever you have your laptop, that's your working place. That's the honest truth. Right now, I'm speaking from the comfort of my bedroom because this is what my reality has been since January of 2020. So this is like 1 year and 10 months of working from my bedroom, nowhere else, just with my laptop. And I've worked for like 2 employers within this time. So it's not a case of who I work for, it's more around, this is the reality right now of what the world is saying. This lady right now just has a cup of coffee close by, and she has her laptop. That's all she needs to work. That is the reality, because the world has changed. The world has moved from even those, industrial machines and having to be at a factory. So long as you have all the tools you need wherever you are to work remotely, then that kind of really is what we're having to deal with. That's the future, really. That's our current, and that's even what the future looks like, is going to be like. So what has happened now for us in Canada? Like I said, since COVID hit, really, we've been trapped and locked down. Aside even the fact that there were, vaccinations and everything, it just seemed like there has been a change totally. People are now less, what's the word now? They are more reluctant, rather, to resume to the office space than to continue to work at home. So they are not excited even about going back to the office. That's the honest truth. That's what we are seeing here. Work from home, work-life balance, virtual work, all of that has come to stay. We've seen the fact that even, research that has been done has shown that even in Canada here, 4.7 million Canadians who do not normally work from home. This is someone like Betsy, who didn't have to work from home before. I used to be an auditor. We had to go to client sites, show up there, collect documents, review them. In fact, they wouldn't even let us take them out of their site because, of course, those things are confidential, right? So they had to keep us in the space, bring us food sometimes, and we would eat there and do all our work there and close late hours in the night before we could go home. But all of that has changed now because if nothing else, the pandemic forced everyone to have to keep documents electronically. So your auditor is going to do their audit job because they have to do it. You cannot escape it. And you have to send them, scan them documents, or however you want to send it to them, password it, do whatever you need to do. But basically, you have to send it virtually. And then a Betsy can sit in her room and open her laptop and do her day's job and stand up for lunch when she wants and go to her kitchen and get a nice snack and come back and continue. That's the beauty of it. That's what the world has now transformed to. And the truth is, I'm not even excited to go back. That's the honest truth. And even research has shown that other people do not want to go back. Because why do I have to go back? I mean, right now I'm speaking at a conference. I didn't have to travel for it. So really, except if I wanted to visit Nigeria, which would be like an extra benefit of going physically for it, you can agree with me that there's really no immediate need for people to have to be at different places if they are connected. If there's internet connectivity, if they have some kind of what's the word now, channel, to reach their their audience. So that's what the world has turned to. So we can see that basically what it has shown is even amidst vaccinations, even the fact that people are vaccinated and they're asking us to have vaccine cards to prove that we are fully vaxxed and all of that, we still don't want to come back. So it's not even about your vaccination. We don't want to come back. That's what it has become, right? So yeah, so I just wanted to show some kind of overview of what has happened and where it's looking like we're getting to. Now, I don't know if you can see this picture here that shows people walking somewhere in downtown Toronto. I got this picture, and what what I'm trying to draw your attention to in this picture is not even the people. It's this little box here that has, 4 wheels and a flag. So it's it's quite interesting, really. So this is a delivery company. That box you see there with tires, it's a delivery company. It's going to deliver lunch to somebody. So you see, it's being programmed from wherever the office of that delivery company is. There's nobody accompanying that box. It's on its way to go and deliver lunch to someone who's probably hungry and has ordered lunch from this company. Now you see it, we see things like this here in Canada, and it makes you begin to laugh, but at the same time, it makes you appreciate what innovation has done, right? Because I mean, how can you send this on an errand? Basically, you're sending a box, an inanimate object, on an errand, and it will go to where it's supposed to go, because everything is the navigation, the what's it called now, the geophysical, everything is linked to Google Maps, everything is linked to. There's really no reason why it would fail, because they have tried it, they have tested it. This is somebody's business, right? Obviously, if they didn't know it would work, they would not send it on an errand. So this is what we have now. People can sit down and enjoy a meal by not even, you're not even going to have to, pay a delivery guy or a salesman or whoever it is that would have done this work. You just send it on an errand. It's going to get there. It will stop, and then you call, send an email or whatever it is to whoever has the package, and then they can come out and just grab their stuff, and it goes back to, to where it's coming from. So that's beautiful, right? That shows innovation. That shows robotics. This is the future. It may not have been everywhere in Canada, but it just shows that for it to have been operating in Toronto, very soon to get to me somewhere in my Waterloo where I live, and who knows, to the rest of the world at some point. So the issues we hear in Nigeria, where delivery guys, I hear funny stories sometimes when I'm on social media where they say delivery guys eat some of the food before they deliver it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not how this thing was designed to be, right? But yeah, I mean, so if you have something like this, at least you're never going to have to deal with that kind of pilferage, except of course people decide to kidnap the box, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I just wanted to say that on a lighter note, but I just wanted us to appreciate what it is, the innovation that has, made this possible. So this is the future, really. It just shows us that the world is moving. It's not waiting on anyone, right? The world is moving. So now, where are we now? So where are we in this future work? What are the things that are the features of this future? So I think I have just enumerated about 6 of them here, but basically just saying this is a future where both employers and employees have to reevaluate themselves constantly and ask what is essential for us, what is essential for our businesses to thrive. For instance, the owner of that company that has that delivery company just knew that, for me, I think it's just ensuring that the food gets from a McDonald's, for instance. If it's a hamburger, gets from a McDonald's to the consumer. That's all I need. That's what is necessary for my business. So how do I need to get that to happen? Well, there's a pandemic, there's people talking about wearing masks and all of that. Okay, why can't I just use a box instead and just program it? That way I cut off any human interaction, I cut off any human contact, and the work still gets done. So that's what that person has done for their business model, and I think they're doing good at it. If not, they wouldn't be as profitable as they are, right? So yeah, so this is also applies to several other businesses. Really, it's just basically making your business a lean structure. You eliminate waste, any waste in the production process. You determine, what do I need, what are the basic necessities that I need as a business to thrive, to ensure that my employees are happy, I keep my employer satisfied. What are the things that I need? For me, since I'm working from home, I know that I definitely need internet connection. So this is not the point where you say, for instance, how do I say now, back home, when I used to work in Nigeria, I know that I didn't have to have internet power, internet rather, at home. I didn't really need to have it. I just had on my phone once in a while. I use my hotspot, but nobody had that requirement of me to ensure that my home was fully, wired. But that's not the case here anymore, because you know you're working from home. So you cannot have that excuse that, oh, you didn't see an email because, you didn't have data or something. That's that becomes a minimum requirement for you, right? You have to have internet connection, you have to have, gear, you have to have your, everything, your power. Obviously, you pay for your power every month. You ensure that you're never cut out because it's linked to your work. It is now a requirement. So that's something, what the world has come to be. Also, I think it's also essential to mention that at this future, we are looking at a work environment where output really just kind of supersedes what the input of the work was and where I did it. So basically, it's like saying the end would justify the means. So at this point, if you have a project to be done and you have staffed it properly, and you have people who are working out of different offices, but everybody is attending those client meetings and everybody is present to make that work done, then of course, at the end of the day, the fact that the project is completed in due time supersedes any other thing, supersedes where the audit team was working from, or where the project was done from. Like currently, I have a colleague of mine who is in South Africa. She's had to go and visit her father-in-law, I think she said, who was down sick. This is something that ordinarily would have required her to take some kind of leave or sick leave, or leave without pay or something, but it didn't matter to her. She just basically left Canada, showed up in South Africa over the weekend. She's currently in South Africa, she's working. We attended a meeting together this morning. So that tells you that she's going to get her job done, but nobody has to know that she's in South Africa. It doesn't affect anyone anymore. But imagine if we had to physically show up at an office, and of course people will ask, where is this person? Oh, okay, she went home. Oh, why didn't she take leave? He just begins to ask a lot of questions. Meanwhile, on a good day, the person is still doing their job. They don't have to be physically at an office or clock in to prove that they are available. Also, I think that already buttresses the next point, which I wanted to say: showing up at a workplace, or clocking in, or putting timestamps to your employees to ensure that they're in one location. Now, I think it's also important to mention that not every kind of work is kind of designed to work like this. So, which is why some people have experienced redundancies in their kind of businesses, because really, if your services that you provide are not really essential, then I guess you can see why the world will kind of move on without you, because it means that you are not, you're not aligned, you're not ready for the kind of future that the world is moving to. I think it's also important to mention rather that layoffs have had to become necessary, really, because not everybody is also quick to adapt to changes. Some people love the office environment so much, and you cannot blame them, really. Maybe human interaction is quite key to their functioning as human beings, or maybe they are so reliant on their teams that if they don't have someone to just stop by their desk to say, hello, please, can you explain this to me, or can you show me what this manager means or something, if they don't have that kind of interaction every day, they are not just able to give their best. So for such kind of people, some of them have had to maybe change careers, or just maybe move to companies who are more pro physical work than remote work. But the truth is, honestly, if you want to look at the the statistics that are available, most companies are having to consider either an hybrid work culture here in Canada, or even totally remote. Like, they put it on job adverts where they say this role is going to be 100% remote. So that way, before you even apply, you know what you're getting into. So if it's not your kind of life, like you prefer to have an office building, wear your nice suit and show up looking prim and proper, and you like people admiring your suit and say, you look good today, fine, then of course you might want to work for companies who are physically working. But if you know that you prefer to work in your pajamas and just do your work and get the work done, then maybe you might be more interested in the remote work. Also, I think it's also important to mention at this point that something that we have seen in 2021 here in Canada is a lot of people have started to resign their jobs just because of the reasons I gave earlier. People just realize that they don't have to work for anybody they don't like anymore. It's not a good way to put it, but that's just what it is. So people have begun to change jobs. I particularly I left my previous employer. I changed a job earlier this year in March, just because I just wanted better for myself. I wanted a better work life. I just, decided, okay, fine. That means I have like a choice now, because first of all, I can attend interviews, that are set remotely. I don't have to physically even show up to any interview. That already makes it easier for me to be able to sample more employers, and at the same time get myself prepared to to discuss my skills, show them why I'm the best hire and all of that. And generally we've just seen people leave their jobs and change for better jobs because the world is changing. People can realize that their skills can be better translated to more employers that they just prefer. And also I see people also changing from even the roles that they are doing. So you see accountants moving from pure accounting where they have to, basically do month ends, GL reconciliations, and all of that trial balance stuff. They're tired of it, and they're like, okay, you know what? I want to move to something like data analytics. I want to move to business analysis. I want to, just basically do some other high level stuff. That's what they're now interested in. Some kind of tech stuff. It might be something you can leverage your accounting experience to, but it just shows that people are willing to even try because the world is changing. So they're attending trainings, they're seeing more opportunities, which is really what, like I said, our team is about, right? You want to maximize your global opportunities. So you can actually change your career path or tweak it a little, bring in more analytics into the accounting you do so that you move away from the routine journal entry posting stuff. So that's something that's also happened that we continue to see here in Canada. Now I can say the tables have turned. Okay, so now this is this picture, I think, of course, depicts where we are as a people and where we are as a working, population, right? This is what it is for most people. Because even though we are struggling to get everybody vaccinated and get all the children back to school, we continue to see this. And like I said, it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon because people are even embracing this more. So you're at work and your child passes by, of course you grab them and just basically just have that interaction. You don't have to leave your house at 6 a.m. and come back at 9 p.m. and that's the only time you're able to even see your children's faces. Parents are beginning to enjoy this remote work because at least they get to have more interaction with their children. But then, okay, so even though we see the benefits, and I've been talking about the benefits all the while, I think it's also important to ensure that I explain that there's definitely prospects and consequences of this all of this change and the revolution that has happened in current time. But we're gonna, before we go into the prospects, I just wanted to quickly show us this quote that I came across. Basically it's saying technology is the future. I have seen the third industrial revolution and we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. This is a quote that basically just emphasizes the fact that even though people think of the industrial revolution as something that occurred once and once for all, no, it didn't happen that way. It actually continues to happen in phases, and we are in the fourth revolution now. It's something that I want us to take as a take home from here. We should understand that the industrial revolution didn't just happen once. It's not something you say, oh, industrial revolution, oh, that thing that happened in the 1700s. No, it continues to happen. It's happening every day around you. Yes, as a country, Canada might be, faster to catch up than, for instance, in Nigeria, but it doesn't mean it's not happening in Nigeria as well. People are being innovative. Young people are making changes even in Nigeria. So that tells you that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So now let's look at the prospects, which was where I was, basically getting to. I think for us, we must understand that the benefits of what this is looking at work-life balance. Work-life balance is just basically saying, I have a life that is all-encompassing. I have a life that includes my showing up to work to do my accounting work. I have a life that includes my going to church, for instance, if that's what you fancy, or going to the mosque. I have a life that includes doing my exercises and, just living a healthy life. I have work that includes, for instance, for me as a mom, running errands and, going grocery shopping and just ensuring that my child generally is, well taken care of, and my family. I also have a life that includes developing myself. So what are the things I want to do to make myself better? For instance, in the past 1 year to now, I've had to take some professional exams, the ACCA exams, and also my CPA conversion. I had to do that in that space of time. At this time, I was also working. So it meant for me that I had to be at an employer that appreciates my time, that knows that I'm not going to be working for you for 24 hours, 7 days a week, because I have other things that are priority to me. Right here in Canada, my experience here as a mom is the fact that I don't have help. I mean, if nothing else, that's really our reality here. So you don't have, I don't know, how do I say, housemaids or house helps just ready to help you carry your child. No, you're going to do everything yourself. So that already tells me that my work-life balance has to give me space to take care of my child, my family, my husband, as well as also do my accounting work, like I said, and do my exercise and be healthy and, just basically look good as a person, right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that this future that we are in is more beneficial for someone like me, because in a remote setting, it means that I can get my job done within within the working hours, I can also use my break time to do actual things that I would love to do, even if it means just quickly scanning through one ACCA, study pack or something while I was preparing for my exams. That was the only way I was able to even do all of that, because I used my break time for what I really wanted to use it for. But if I was stuck in an office, 1 hour break, I would just be forced to, chit chat with my fellow colleagues or something, because I don't have any other choice. I'm stuck with them at that time, right? What are the odds that I'll be allowed to step out to quickly go and, do a run, or basically work out for like 30 minutes during the during the work hours? That wouldn't even be possible. But now I can, log out when it's my break time and just go and use a YouTube video for some 30 minutes and work out. That alone would make me so much fulfilled when it's about time for me to sleep at night, because I'll feel like, oh, I had a better balanced life throughout the day. I was able to meet all my conflicting, engagements, and able to just basically enjoy myself, even though I'm working. Working shouldn't just mean that, oh, because I'm at work, then my entire life is signed to my employer. That's not the future that people are looking, especially the young generation. When you're looking at the Gen Z people who do not even have time to waste at any employer, if they just see that things are not moving as fast as they want and the place is not as flexible as they want, they begin to seek better employment opportunities. So that's what we have, begun to see here. I think also another prospect, or would I say prospect, that has happened is the fact that since we are all, having this physical distance and embracing remote work, it's beginning to allow its employers, or employees rather, to see between themselves what they can do to help themselves have a better work life. You have independence, really, when you realize that you don't have to, how do I say now, stop by at people's desks to just keep, asking questions or having like chatter moments where you just go and gist and go back to your seat. You realize that within that short space of time, if you're a focused person, really, it can actually help you to be more independent as a person. Because when you have a problem, you would look within yourself and within all the resources that are available on the internet. Before you can even go and think of calling your colleague on a call, on a video call, or on a Zoom call to say, okay, please, I have this problem. At least you would have tried to solve it by yourself and even not show up blank to your manager or to your supervisor or something. So that's something that I personally have come to see, because when I have an issue, maybe I was working on some kind of, I don't know, stock based compensation, and I know that I'm hooking, like the thing is not working out. I'm trying to do my Excel and it's not, tying through. At that point, I'm beginning to think, okay, so how is this supposed to be done? What can I do to make this, be done better? I go to the internet, maybe Google throws me to go and read up something on IFRS 2 or something on share-based payment. And then I go and read that and I come back and I'm like, oh, okay, even if I'm going to set up a call with my controller, and we have to talk through this thing, it just shows that I would not show up empty-handed. I would have, looked within myself before I show up, because the truth is, we now know that we don't have to be too dependent on just hearsay. You want to validate things for yourself and show up more technically sound to meetings, to, team brainstorming sessions and all of that. So that's what one prospect that I've come to enjoy anyway. I also see that for people who work in the workforce, it allows you have independent contracting opportunities, because most employees have to spend so much time commuting to work. So if for instance, you live in Waterloo and then you're going to downtown Toronto, which is about 1 hour, 30 minutes drive, here in Canada. Or let's even use Nigeria as an example. I don't know, maybe you're in Abuja, you stay in Kubwa, and then you have to, show up all the way to also drive or something for to work every morning. And then that commuting time of almost 1 hour, you have saved it by just being in your house, assuming that you're working from home. You're being in your house and you're able to use that 1 hour for something else. You will realize that you can renegotiate your working hours with your employer. If I can show up at 7 and maybe be done by 4, if that's the standard number of hours I'm supposed to put in that day, or even 7 to 3, instead of me waking up at 7 and having to bathe and get ready and show up and use buses or even drive myself to that office location. If I can start working earlier for you, what it means is when I'm done at 3 p.m., I can go have my break or have some lunch and even still be able to put in, especially here abroad, we still put in hours for another employer. People do that because they want to make more money. Like, you're looking at yourself and you're like, okay, what would I have done rather with this time if I was just, traveling around locations, because I'm trying to, show up physically to work. So that's something that's happened as well. So people are beginning to do more than one job. Of course, they're not over exerting themselves. They're just using the time that they would have spent doing something else that is probably mundane. They are spending it to, to actually better their lives. If not working for another employer, they are spending it actually taking more professional exams, like I said, self-development. They are using that time to do something more beneficial to themselves. Those who want to work out as well can spend that time working out, if nothing else. This is just something that they can do to have a better well-being, prioritizing their wellness and everything. So that's something that I can say that has been a huge plus for our business owners. Also, I think there's for us here in Canada, I've noticed that people have actually begun to look at the cost saving, right, in having a lot of people in one location. So if you wanted to have, for instance, 50 employees and all of them were required to physically show up to an office, what it means is at the minimum you would need 50 desks or 50 cubicles, arranged in a way that all of them can work at the same time and of course close at the same time, right? That would mean that you have to have 50 computers all set up with the monitors and extra monitors and external whatever keyboards, everything all arranged for 50 people at the same time. But now you can see that you might not have to spend that much in real estate space and facility management and even utility costs, because now the person's house that they live in, they're already paying their bills, right? They're already paying their power bills. Like I, for instance, I'm currently working in my house. Like I said, I've paid my power bill for the month. My employer is enjoying that from me because he's not having to pay any power bill that he would have been paying today if I was at the office and every other colleague of mine as well was at the office. So what they've seen is for those who have not been able to quickly, what's the word now, convert those spaces or basically end their leases, probably because of the lease term agreement. Some of them have had to also get some kind of subsidies from the government. So we've seen that happen here, where the government actually supports those businesses that are not able to immediately go remote, or even if they went remote, the bills are still running because maybe they already have some kind of contract with their landlords or real estate company managers, right? So government actually steps in here to help them cushion the effect of the pandemic and everything. But I foresee that even after the pandemic is over, I mean, it's not looking like it's going to end, right? So at this point, people are going to reevaluate, do I need this kind of big office space if people are not even going to show up here to do their work? Another thing we can say is, I mean, generally in human behavioral aspects, you can see that people are now being managed in less authoritarian manner. The flexibility is better. If the work is getting too hard, you can reduce people's work hours. Like you don't have to, strain them to the point that they give you their literally their flesh and blood in doing their work. No, you can actually, make things more flexible. Who is able to work on Friday? Who has something to do with their child on a Thursday and cannot show up? Okay, can you switch places or something? Just ensure that your employees know that it's more about the output. So if they are not able to be there at a certain day, it doesn't mean the work ends. Whoever can fill in for that role and make up the hours later. So that's really what the world is moving to. You have programmers who are working out of some kind of random location in Canada, but they're working for an employer here in Ontario. They're probably in Vancouver or something. Yeah, because they can do their work. The time zones might even make them work earlier. So maybe they're already awake at 2 a.m. here when I'm still sleeping, but they're already awake and they're already putting in their hours. By the time I wake up, they're done. They have gone to do other things with their time. So you see that everything would even be better managed and people will be more flexible when they are in those kind of situations. Also, I think it's also important to mention at this point that some Canadian employers have had to, outsource their work. So I'll give an instance of a big four auditor here in Canada that actually does outsource some of its work to India. So India obviously is going to be a country that would be charging you much less than what someone who were living in Canada would charge you to do the same thing. So in audit we use the term charge out rates. So if for instance a Betsy who lives in Canada who has to pay Canadian bills and high rent and everything that is so expensive here, if she's going to charge you, I don't know, about $35 an hour to do this audit work, and you can get someone in India who is probably in a place that has less cost of living and all of that, and the person is willing to even take $20 an hour to do that same work, you realize that as an employer, that's going to be more profitable to you. So you'll be interested in such kind of arrangement. So what they do here is, of course, they have Canadian employers, but they outsource most of the mundane tasks, most of the tasks that are repetitive in nature. They outsource it to those countries because by using shared service centers. So they have shared service centers in countries like India. I think even I'm not sure about Nigeria, but I think even Nigeria does some kind of repatriation of employees like that with their big four companies, in other countries. So instance, PwC Nigeria, for example, might have some employees that are outsourced to, I don't know, PwC Canada. So what it simply means is, for instance, if you have an audit procedure to perform, say, for example, journals entry testing that you do at the end of the year, you want to confirm if all the journals were complete or if there were any kind of, unusual journals that were posted, that's something that's a bit repetitive in audits, right? So you can outsource that to those people. So what they would do is basically you just give them a list of procedures that they need to perform. Okay, I've provided you the GL dump, general ledger dump. I've also provided you the trial balance that we closed with us at the end of last year. For instance, I've provided you as well the trial balance that we have currently. So I just want you to do a completeness check for me, adding all the entries that were posted this year to those that we had as at last year, and tell me what my expectations should be for this year. If it doesn't tie to what I have on my system, of course there's a problem. So that's just the way I can explain that audit procedure. Now, do you have to make Betsy do that here when you can pay somebody much less as an employer to have that same procedure done? Of course not. So what they do is they outsource such things to India. So I had, when I was still in audit, I had, cases where we as the audit team, have to follow up with those people. Of course, because of time zones and everything, you have to make sure you are, you wake up earlier than them and send them that email so that when they wake up, they can get it. But that's like something, that's a minute part of the work, right? All you want is the output. So at the end of the day, they have their own teams there. They follow the instructions you have provided. Everything is done electronically. They upload their results, throw off all the journals entries that had those, problems or something, and then ask you, the audit team in Canada, to go and fix. So that way, you just imagine you sleep and wake up, and something that ordinarily would have kept you awake over the night because you're on a tight deadline to, finish the client's work. You wake up and somebody in India has already helped you to do that. That's beautiful. Now that means you can immediately go to the client and say, okay, from our work, these are the journals entries that had issues. Can you guys help us explain why this were not, put in your system or something? They can easily get back to you before audits are done in like 1 week or 2 weeks. You don't have to spend the entire month, oh, you're doing audits and then you're sleeping and waking up there. That already tells you that by using shared service centers, by using these, beautiful facilities that have come to stay in this future of work that we deal with, it will help you achieve efficiency, really. It will help, everybody move in a smoother way. I think it's just also important to mention that for some businesses, it also means that businesses can go beyond walls, beyond borders. It just means that you have a wider reach. The internet alone would help you attract clients, customers all around the world because everything is interconnected. So long as you have an email, at the very minimum, it means you can, stay here in Canada and send an email to someone in Nigeria. And if the person likes what you're selling or whatever service you're offering, then of course, that means you have a wider clientele, right? That alone will tell you that that's a prospective, or that is a continuous prospect, for this future that we have come to embrace. Now, of course, we can look at some of the consequences. So what then can you think and say, okay, fine, if we are having to move from these whole analog stages to all the industrializations that have happened till now. What are the likely consequences of this future of work? I know that unfortunately I cannot get feedback from the audience, but I'm pretty sure right now you are thinking in your minds already. What are the likely things that would, what are the challenges rather that we can face in this future? Now I decided to use this picture just to kind of show depict rather what when the world is moving and then you are almost left behind. So this lady here, we can see she's running to catch up with the train. So that's how I think of the future of work. Like the train is moving. It's a case of you either catch up or you're left behind. There's really not going to be a lot of opportunities for people to sit down and be slow to admit that the world is changing. That's the way social media came. That's the way ATM machines came. People were, a bit reluctant at the time. I'm pretty sure when, even when phones even came up, I'm pretty sure then when you hear your neighbor speaking and then they're screaming on the phone, you're like, what is this one? It just seemed like something that was not going to be here to stay. But right now, I don't think there's anybody, at least adults, that doesn't have a kind of a phone, that they can use to communicate. That's how things, rapidly change. That's how this picture depicts. There's a train moving. You're either going to join it as quickly as you can, run along to catch it, or the door closes and then that's it. You've missed that particular turn. Now, if you're lucky, another train comes, of course, you can still hop on, but it just simply means that opportunities are meant to be cut as quickly as they've come. So right now we're hearing Bitcoin, we're hearing blockchain, we're hearing all of these things. It's still sounding strange to some people, but if you are honest to yourself, you would know that at some point, even shares and buying of shares were still strange. No, it wasn't something we were born with. right? It's something that happened at some point in life when people determine, okay, so these things, even though they sound fictitious, they're actually profitable. And then some people bought into it. And today they have enjoyed their millions from it. That's the same way, the world moves. That's the way the world moves, right? So there are definitely going to be consequences of not being, quick to catch up with these opportunities. Now, before we move on to those consequences again, I would like to quickly share this quote that I came across. It just simply said, every industrial revolution brings along a learning revolution. So yes, so this will be one of the major consequences, of course, because as long as there's change, it definitely means there will be a learning curve. There's going to be something, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? Like, if nothing else, there's just going to be the first time you're having to, use that platform or use that means. And then, of course, you're going to struggle a bit. That's already a given consequence. So long as there's change, there's going to have to be learning. There's going to be that opposition to the change, if nothing else, because people are not going to be sure if they are, if they are able to manage and adapt as quickly as possible. So now let's look at the consequences. So the consequences, of course, with industrial revolution, and even the way the future of work has, kind of changed the way we are working and how we are having to, do everything remotely. I think it's important to look at these consequences and be aware of them, even though some of them might not affect us. But it's just important to be aware that some of these things would actually affect us in a negative way, and how can we, of course, embrace that change when it occurs or whenever it hits us. One that will be obviously, I think you can't even escape it, is the cost. Definitely, there's a cost of setting things up. No matter what it is, so long as you're having to deal with technological advancement, there's obviously the cost of even setting up the infrastructure that would make things work. What are the likely infrastructure for me? Of course, internet data is super important. Like I said, my employer is not going to hear that I was not able to work because I didn't have data. That's an excuse that might likely fly in, I don't know, maybe somewhere if I was hidden somewhere in where I used to live in Akko in Nigeria. But right now, where I am in Canada, I don't think you can open your mouth and say you don't have internet. It's like, why don't you have internet? Like, you are required to have internet, if nothing else. Internet structure, you're required to be connected to the VPN of the office so that you can, get easily interconnected with your colleagues. Also, of course, there's cost of setting up artificial intelligence. So look at that owner, that business owner that has that robot rather that is doing the delivery. Of course, that alone, that's an expensive thing, right, to build. In the long run, it might even be cheaper, when you're paying for that compared to human beings, but you might not know. At the initial setup stage, it's going to be definitely expensive to build those facilities that will make things faster. So that's something that you cannot escape. Also, I think that's also something to talk about, self-dependence and reduced collaboration. So when I was giving the example earlier, when I said that working from home has helped employees to be more independent, I think we might be overthinking it if we do not also acknowledge that there are some people who actually need that, collaboration to function well. Collaboration is good, teamwork is beautiful, because it can help people, draw strength from other people who are stronger within the team, especially those who are likely, the weak link in that team, or at that moment they might just be struggling, and it will be important for them to, have that immediate quick physical collaboration. But that's a consequence of this kind of, when everybody's gearing towards, remote work, working from home, it's going to be more difficult for those people who struggle. So it's important that we acknowledge that that's a problem. Not everyone is able to be self-sufficient, and so we must acknowledge these people. Also, I think it's also important to talk about the learning curve. We are talking about big data, you're talking about cloud computing, Internet of Things. This is all new. Some people don't even know what all of this means. So when you say big data, what do you mean? Of course, data that is really large, voluminous, collecting all of these and using it to interpret information. So for instance, you're on an Amazon, you're shopping, and then you're putting things in your cart, that in your shopping cart, or you're on a Jumia, for instance, in Nigeria, Jumia or Konga or something, and then you're putting things in your cart. Now, if the artificial intelligence is working properly, by using the things you're putting in your cart in a Jumia, it can begin to even tell you, tell other, what's it called, companies, what your tastes is, your preference is, based on the information you have put in into that website. You've logged in, you've put your name, your email address, probably asks you your age or something, and you put. So you can do some kind of demographic analysis to tell, the owner of Jumia that more people above age 40 are, buying, I don't know, what can I even say right now? Maybe, I don't know, bicycles or something to work out in the evenings. That might now make them begin to advertise bicycles more whenever somebody above age 40 is online, or maybe younger people are buying, I don't know, iPads or something based on what it has been seen in people's shopping carts. Now that's big data. It's analyzing the data. It's using the information that is available by shoppers to tell the business owner that this is what people are interested in. But of course, there's the learning curve. Like if you do not understand all of this and you work in that kind of place, it will take you a while to get in tune with it. It also means that our privacy is breached, if nothing else, because it just simply means I can sit in my house and then I'll begin to get adverts for, I don't know, maybe phones, an iPhone, simply because I search for the price of iPhone 13 out of curiosity. But because it has picked up my data and it has analyzed it and it's like, okay, this lady must really want an iPhone. So it begins to advertise iPhones to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't want, I have a current phone that is working. But that's what it is, because that's what the internet has come to become. It's using all of this information. It's projecting things to you that you didn't even want. Of course, it will also sell even negative things that you probably don't want to see at the time, but you're forced to see it because truly everything is all connected and interconnected. Also, that of course brings me to the privacy issues. I was talking about security issues. Even for those who used to collaborate, like I gave an example of when we used to have to physically show up to clients to work on projects. All of that has changed now. So yes, you're sending me documents via email or through a kind of Dropbox, and of course you're passwording them, but it just increases the risk, right, of these things being intercepted by unwanted people that we do not want to have access to them, hackers, crackers, and all of that. So also, I think it's also important to mention that there could be distractions. So when I showed that picture of that father sitting down with their child and trying to put in some work, yeah, it's beautiful that you can take a moment off and see your child and find out what they are doing while you're at work. But if you are not in an enclosed space like I am right now, it might be distracting. Imagine if my child were crying in the background and you people can hear all the noise and everything. You would probably not get the best from the conference, right? You'll be a bit sad, like, why did this lady not keep her child in the daycare or something? So yeah, so that's something that can be a distraction as well and affect the work that we are trying to build. Also, I think there's also important to mention the fact that home, naturally people like to rest at home. So if you're not careful, you might not know how to dress up properly and show up to work even though you are in your bedroom. Like, nobody needs to know you're in your bedroom. You have to be dressed up and ready to put in the same amount of work and the same level of professionalism that you would have put in if you were at an office. Also, I think over time people might say that your productivity might reduce if you are not having the human interaction that you would have loved to have. This is an argument that some proponents have said, that okay, wow, even though things are moving on and we are enjoying this whole fast-paced life that we have now, what about those who are more productive when they are in a structured work environment? Also, I think it's the most important one that even affects someone like me, might be not even knowing when to take a break, because you are at work and your work is linked with your house. So you might just wake up at 8 p.m. You still want to go and start typing an email or something because you are wired to think, well, I mean, that's the laptop, right? I can just quickly open and drop a mail or send a chat or something. The truth is, you have to know when to stop. Wisdom is knowing when to stop. So that's a consequence of this whole, working from home, remote work, and all of that. You might not know when to take your break. You might not know when it's time to close your laptop for the day and go home. Like if you were in an office where you would know, okay, it's time to close. You close your laptop. Maybe you are even working with a desktop at the office. So that means you're not even going home with it. So that way you're done for the day. You're done. But now everybody is just moving around with their the desktop or their laptops rather, that they have been provided to work from home. That way they never really know when to stop. It's a weekend, it's a public holiday, but you're still finding yourself sneaking in to quickly complete something you were working on without taking the full time to rest and acknowledge that I'm at home. I'm supposed to not open my laptop today. I'm supposed to just rest and take advantage of this opportunity that I've been given to really relax and have time for my family. Also, of course, like I mentioned, the staff exits have been a consequence because people have had to change jobs. People have had to be sacked. Basically, those who couldn't catch up with the way the world was moving, some of them have had to be let go. It's not it's just an unfortunate situation, because redundancy is not something every employer is able to continue to manage. After a while, they will begin to seek ways to hire the people who are more in tune with the fast-paced nature of the work environment, and of course let go those who are slower to adapt. So that's an unfortunate situation, but it's something that most employers cannot avoid to do. as well as most employees who are also evaluating their employers to say, you know what, I don't even want to work for you anymore. You look like you're too strict and too rigid. You want us to, show up at a particular time or close at a particular time. Meanwhile, I want to use my time better. So I want to work for another person. And then they begin to leave. So that way it affects both sides of the equation, and the tables indeed begin to turn. So yeah, but of course, how do we embrace the future? This future has come to stay. The world this is what it is right now, right? So this is basically a man giving a handshake to a robot. So basically saying, okay, well, we're gonna have to work together to make the future work. For instance, the delivery guy that is going, or the delivery box rather, that is going, that's something that has come to stay, for instance, in that region where it operates. Now, how do we embrace the future? Embracing the future obviously means not knocking it down when you see it, knowing fully well that this is not just a toy. This is something that is somebody's business. Somebody's running this as a business, right? So of course you don't go and hit it down just because you think it's an inanimate object. You treat it the way you would treat a delivery person if you had seen a delivery rider, with their box at their back and on their bikes, right? Something like that. So of course, what are the things generally? I can just quickly touch them, but just to say, what are the things we need to do to be ready to embrace this future? I would say just be ready to make changes as they come up. If you need to show up to work, if you need to have these gadgets and all of these things that make me look like a DJ right now, basically you have them because you need to have them. They're important for your work, right? Of course, you dress up, show up. You're having a conference in Nigeria, you're speaking from Canada, you show up like you're having a conference physically. It doesn't mean that because you're speaking from the comfort of your home, you look like you just woke up from the bed and picked up the mic. No, you don't do that. You show up the same way you would if you were physically present. Again, of course, get as much coaching as you need from whoever you need, to provide that coaching to you. So for instance, if you're those people who are more dependent on collaborations, reach out to your colleagues, reach out to your managers. Of course, find out what you need before the day even starts. If you can quickly just send them an email to say, these are the things I'm stuck at. So that way your work is seamless. It's not clear that, oh, because we're not at the office, I couldn't finish my work. You don't want to be laid off, right? So it just simply means that all you need to excel, you try and grab them as quickly as you can. Also communicate effectively. So if you're working on a project or something, just basically communicate the progress, communicate whatever is holding things down, communicate action points, just so that people know what they're supposed to be doing, because people can get distracted when they're in their houses. You need to let them know, okay, you, Mr. A, you're supposed to be working on this. Mr. B, how is it going? Mrs. B, how is it? Just basically reach out to these people, find out what's happening so that nobody is left behind. I think it's also important to, basically prioritize, of course, your mental health, manage your time. I would say manage your time, because people can tend to just forget that it's a work day, and then they on a video call, and then the thing is just going long and long for like 2 hours. You're not done. No, because it's treat it as you would treat a physical conversation at the office. I don't see you going to meet your manager and then sitting down there for 2 hours. Why would you want to do that? You want to get the job done, right? So even if you went there to ask a question, quickly get whatever you need and go back and actually put in the real work. Also, I think it's also important for people to maximize virtual opportunities for self-improvement. For someone like me, I gave an example of when I had to take exams virtually online. This was an ACCA exam that was being operated all over the world. I'm here in Canada. I took that exam in my bedroom. Same thing, because I know that it's virtually possible. Like, we don't have to physically show up at an exam, hall like we did when I was taking my ICANN, when they would say, hey, your time, you have 10 minutes to go. Hell, oh my God, you're just, when you see that man, I think there's this man, really tall guy like that used to, invigilate that exam, and then he would just scare everybody, and you begin to write fast. But now you just know that you are being virtually invigilated, right? So yeah, somebody's watching you. They've taken pictures of your entire room, and ensure that you don't have any, of course, materials that in your room and everything. So yeah, so you're checking in a very paced environment. For me, I enjoyed that exam. I don't know about other people, but I basically enjoyed my virtual exam even more than my physical exams, because I didn't have anybody around me to scare me. I don't know, so other students can be funny when they say it's time to go or time to stop. You see people just fidgeting, and it even affects you. But now you're alone, so I mean, you can do what you want to do. Also, I think it's also important to mention on a lighter note to enjoy your personal care. The world has come to stay like this, so please get some rest, get sleep. Just basically fuse your work life with your home life in a way that it's the synergy just allows you enjoy yourself doing what you like. And finally, I would like to say, of course, give room for imperfections, because the truth is it's new for some people. For other people that have caught up with the train, like I said earlier, they've jumped on the train and they are already in it. But some other people who missed the first train might be catching up to the next coach or the next train that is about to stop. the truth is they would not be perfect at it at the first time. Not everybody would know how to use all of these gadgets and tools. Not everybody will know what it means. Some people, the learning curve will be slower for them, but it just means that we should all just know that truth is everybody's going to catch up eventually. Not everybody knew how to use a phone when it first came out, but now nobody will say they don't know how to at least pick up a phone and make a phone call. So that's how everybody has had to catch up. That's the same way all the innovations that are coming right now, we are all going to catch up at some point. So I think just not to take much of your time, this is really where I'm going to stop for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Betsy, please a big round of applause for her. Thank you so very much.